Hi everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel, and for today we will discuss about instructional materials development. So under this topic are the subtopics: the introduction for instructional materials development in developmental education, overview of developmental education and its goals, role of instructional materials in developmental education, theoretical framework for instructional materials development and needs assessment and analysis. So for our first subtopic, the introduction of instructional materials development in developmental education. So first, what is instructional materials? It is a designed classroom tool which contain instruction to learners and teachers and which specify each increment of learning. It is a tangible and real objects that provide the audio and the visual component of necessary for learning. It serves as the basis for the language input learners receive and language practice that occur in the classroom, stimulate learners' senses, and may have the power to arouse emotion. So the purpose of instructional materials development. First, it helps educators deliver a message creatively and clearly. Next, assist learners in gaining and increasing awareness and skills as well as retaining more effectively what they learn. Next, it saves time and energy on the part of both learners and teacher. And lastly, the purpose of IMD is to help reinforce learning and potentially bring realism to the experience. What are the different guiding principles in making instructional materials? There are two. The first one is that instructional materials should reinforce and supplement, not substitute, for the educator's teaching efforts. And the second one, messages imparted by the instructional materials must be accurate, valid, authoritative, up to date, state of the art, appropriate, unbiased, and free from any unintended messages. Instructional materials design model. There are four. The first one is the Bloom's taxonomy. It is about ordering of cognitive skills that can help teachers teach and learners to learn. There are 6 levels in the Bloom's taxonomy. The first one is the remember. Next, understand. Third, apply. Fourth, analyze. Fifth, evaluate. And the highest level is create. The next model is the ADDIE model. It is the most important structural material design used as a process guide when developing effective training tools. It is a linear process. So ADDIE model. So it is the abbreviation which stands for A, analyze the needs of the learners. D, design the learning objectives. D, develop the instructional materials and content. I, implement the materials by delivery training. And the last one, E, evaluate the materials and the delivery. So the second instructional material design model is the iterative design. It incrementally developing and refining a design based on the feedback and evaluation. SAM model or the SAM, Successive Approximation Model. It is a simplified version of ADDIE. Feedback is collected earlier to design and can be built working model earlier in the process. It is a recursive process. We should always remember that instructional materials must be relevant, timely, and attention grabber. What are the basic principles of instructional materials? The first one, material should be achieved impact. Second, material should help learners feel at ease. Third, material should require and facilitate learner investment. Number 4, material should help learners develop confidence. Number 5, what is taught should be perceived by learners as useful and relevant. Number 6, learners must be ready to achieve the points being taught. 7, material should expose the learners to language and authentic use. And the last one is the learner's attention should be drawn to the linguistic features of the input. So there are different factors that can affect the instructional materials preparation. So there are four factors. The first one is the curriculum. It means the syllabus and the learning competencies. So later on, we will discuss the different types of syllabus. So the second factor is the learner's learning style, aptitudes, and proficiency. The third one is the pedagogical principles of the teachers. So each teacher has its own pedagogical principles and way of teaching. The last one is the social demand. Now, let's talk about the syllabus. So what is syllabus? Syllabus is a guide for teachers and learners. It is a statement of what is to be learned. So inside the syllabus are list of objectives that the students and the teachers need to comply at the end of the semester. What are the types of syllabus? There are five. The first one is the structural or the formal. Collection of forms, structure, usually grammatical of the language being used. The second one is the notational or the functional. It is the collection of functions that are performed when language is used of the notion that a language is used to express. The third one is the situational syllabus. It is the collection of real or imaginary situation in which language occur or is used. The fourth one is the skill-based collection of specific abilities that may play a part using language. And the last one is the task-based series of complex and purposeful tasks, activities with a purpose other than language learning. So these are some of the examples of instructional materials development in developmental education. First is the traditional instructional media. This includes chalkboard, whiteboard, flannel board, flip chart, epidoscope, real objects, model, and simulators. The next one is the modern instructional media, which includes digital presenter, visualizer, smartboard, modern whiteboard, 3D printed models, augmented reality, and the virtual reality. So now let's go to sub-problem number 2, the overview of development education and its goals. First, let's define what is development education. It is a comprehensive research-based framework that empowers underprepared learners to achieve intellectual, social, and emotional growth. It includes but not limited to instruction, coursework, tutoring, personal counseling, career counseling, and academic advisement. So the main purpose of development education is to enable children to develop skills and understanding in order to study their world and its inhabitability and appreciate the interrelationship between them. And its goals are improve student skills and of course increase their chances in credit bearing and college level programs. Now let's proceed to sub-problem number 3, the role of instructional materials in developmental education. First one, it is used to support and supplement the content of lesson. So that is first role of instructional material. The second one is to help students learn new concepts and provide practice opportunities. The main role of IM. The first one, it is the resource for presentation materials. The second one, source of activities for learner practice and communication interaction. The third one, it reference for the learners on different language topics. The fourth, it is the source of stimulation ideas for classroom activities. And the last main role of instructional material is to support less experienced teacher. So it is very important to know the different role of instructional materials, especially to those teachers who are less experienced or those who are new in the teaching field. So now let's proceed to the theoretical framework for the instructional materials development. So there are different theories that are being anchored in the instructional materials development. So what are these? There are 5 theories that are being anchored. First one is the behaviorist theory. So believes that human beings are shaped entirely by their external environment. So, an example of this is when a teacher gave an award or a reward to those students who are performing well, and this also applies to those students who are participating less or not doing their task in their school. So, those punishments. Next one is the cognitive theory. This explains how we process information when we learn. The learner is passive, sitting and listening, and the teacher imparts knowledge. So the third anchor theory is the cybernetic. So it provides a model for different view of learning. The fourth one is the humanist theory. This concerns more on educators' role in the development of person as a person. So it allows teachers to mold students as a person. So the last one is the social situated learning theory. So this emphasizes the importance of observing and modeling of behaviors. That is why teachers are considered to be models inside classrooms, because the students are always observing and modeling their behaviors. That is why we are advised to act properly inside the classroom so that the students can mirror our actions. Now let's proceed to the last subtopic, the needs assessment and analysis. So first, let's define what is need assessment. So need assessment is a systematic process of determining and addressing needs or gaps between current condition and desired condition or wants. We should always understand that there is always the need to identify the needs and gaps of our learners to ensure that the quality of education that we can provide is at its peak. So, needs assessment is very important, and it is also a part of planning. It can be used to clarify problems and identify appropriate solutions. So, it requires sufficient data and help improve policy or program decision, individuals' education, training, organization, and communication or products. So of course, in needs assessment, in order for us to give the proper solution, we need to have sufficient data. So what are the different types of need assessment? There are three. First one is the perceived needs. So these are what people think about their needs. Each standard changes with each respondent. The second one is the expressed needs. It is defined by the number of people who have sought help and focuses are translated into action. The last one is the relative needs. It is a concern with equity and must consider differences in population and social pathology. So we should always consider the social status, the origin of our respondents, as well as its population. So how are we going to conduct the needs assessment? There are 4 steps. The first one is first we need to identify the needs. How are we going to identify the needs? We need to set relevant objectives and ask for feedbacks. That is why we can have a survey for the respondents to be able to show or identify the needs that we need to address. Next is collect internal information. First, we need to host a collaborative sessions with various respondents. And then the third one is to gather external information. So request survey answers. So after survey, of course, we need to identify the answer in order for us to host focused groups. And of course, when we already have the data, we are going to use the data. So we need to implement process improvements based on the gathered insights. So based on the data that we have gathered, we can create various solutions or trainings or activities that can be used in order to address the gaps we identified. So why is there a need for needs assessment? There are 4 reasons. The first one, our activities may be incorrectly used. Okay, so maybe our activities are not aligned with our objectives. Second, activities may have wrong content, objectives, and method. So We should always make sure that our objectives, our methods should be aligned. The third one, students may be exposed to activities for which they don't have the basic skills or confidence. So we should always remember and we should always identify the ability, the skills, the knowledge of our learners so that we would be able to provide the basic activities that of course they feel confident and they have the basic skills to perform that activity. The last one, of course, money may be spent on unnecessary activities because they are unrelevant. Activities, as we all know, needs money. So we need to make sure that our activities are relevant and can address the gaps that we have identified. So there are different types of analysis in the needs assessment. So there are three. The first one is the organization analysis. So we analyze the strategic direction, support teachers, and the training resources. The second type of analysis is the person analysis. So we're going to analyze the person characteristic, the basic skills, the self-efficacy, awareness of needs, career, interest, and goals. And the last type of analysis is the task analysis. So this results in the description of work activities, including tasks performed by the students and the knowledge, skills, and abilities required to complete the task. So those are the different types of analysis in needs assessment. So that would be all. Thank you so much.